Here, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to be with you again today. We're going to talk very specifically about how to maximize your sphere of influence. I have one of the foremost real estate experts in the country. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. Today's episode is going to be nothing short of an absolute special broadcast. All right, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddard. Thrilled to be with you today, and even more thrilled to be with Michael Hellickson. He is the founder and CEO of Club Wealth, the fastest growing coaching company in the real estate industry. Prior to that, Michael had quite a bit of success. For over 20 years, he sold between 120 and 180 homes. This guy knows what he's talking about. And Michael, such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us today on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show.
My pleasure. I'm glad I'm here. I appreciate you having me. And hey, for clarity's sake, when you were talking about the 120 to 180 homes, that's every month, by the way. That's not on an annual basis. That's not total. That's literally 120 to 180 homes each month. And we had at one point in time 750 listings in active and pending status. I say that because I'm one of those guys. There's so many people that want to just talk to real estate agents and tell them what to do and give them advice. And it's like, dude, who are you to give me advice, right? Like if somebody's going to give me advice, they'd better be doing what I want to be doing, right? Or have done what I want to be able to do. And so what is it? Al Pacino says, never take any advice from anyone who has done nothing, or never let anyone who has done nothing tell you how to do anything, or something like that.
I love it.
Anyway, that being said, dude, I love this. We're talking about, different lead sources, and particularly I know your audience and you are very heavy on referrals, which is a really important lead source, especially as, we come into this time where, in general, in the last, let's call it the last 8 years, we've gone from 61% of the average agent's business coming from referral has dropped down to below 40% of the average agent's business coming from referral. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But number one is that 92% of all buyers start their search online. And of those, fully 72% work with the first agent they come in contact with that doesn't drop the ball on that lead and, on follow-up. Now, agents can certainly up those numbers. Agents can stack the odds in their favor. Particularly, I know you do a lot of teaching on how to get business from other business owners, right? How to get referrals from business owners, that type of thing, which is huge. I can tell you that there was a period of time where I had one bankruptcy attorney in particular that I was doing about 8 deals a month with that one attorney. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So I agree with you. I think business to business referrals are huge. And I think it's something that a lot of agents really haven't captured like they need to. I think coming into this new year, though, or I say coming into the new year, coming into this new market that we're getting ready to enter into as interest rates continue to climb, I think it's going to get more and more important to diversify our lead flow and start looking at not just referrals, but you talk about thinking bigger. I think we need to think a lot bigger. I think we need to have, honestly, I think agents, if they want to make 6 figures in this industry, they need to have, 10 to 15 lead sources. And if they want to make 7 figures in this business, they're going to need 25 to 35 lead sources. I look at my son. My son's been in the business now for 4 months. And he's already closed, I want to say 20 something transactions. And he's got another, I don't know if I look on his board, his company works in the office next to me. I can see his board from here, and it looks to me like they've got, there must be, 10 or 12 pendings on there. And then another 15 or 20 listed. What's interesting about that is, and again, I'm a believer in referrals, but what's interesting about that is he's brand new to the business. Guess how many of those transactions are from referrals?
Probably few, I would imagine, if he's fairly new to the business. 2.
Out of all of those transactions, 2 are from referral. And so really what it comes down to is there's really 3 things that everybody's got to do, right? At a very, very high level. If you're going to succeed in this business, you got to do 3 things at a high level: lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. That's it. Like none of the other stuff matters if you don't figure those 3 things out. You'll never make a dime if you don't get those 3 things figured out. Even referrals, that's lead generation, right? Like you've got to get somebody to send you a referral. One of the best ways you can get someone to send you a referral is to do a good job with the people that do send you a referral. It's to take really good care of those people. There's you and I were talking just before the show started. We were talking a little bit about we've got a blog post about 10 things. I shot you the link if you want to share that. You're more than welcome. But we've got a blog post on the 10 things you should do when you get a referral. The best thing you can do if you want to get more referrals is really do a bang up job for the people that send you referrals and make them feel like you really took care of the referral and you really took care of them in the process. And remember, you can't pay an unlicensed person to send you referrals. It's against the law, right? It's a RESPA violation. But you can pay them in a lot of different ways that don't cost money, right? And it's really through your actions and follow up and through keeping them posted. And, as an example, when someone sends you a referral, what's the first thing you do?
Well, yeah, thank them, right?
But so yes, and then that is number one on my list as well. What I'm curious though is for most people, what do most people do? I mean, I thank them, but like if somebody sends you a referral via text, what do? Send them a text message back. Hey, thanks. I'll give them a call.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great start. But what else? Like you got to do more than that. Like that's the meeting the expectation.
Right.
It's certainly not exceeding the expectation. Exceeding the expectation is pick the freaking phone up, call them up. Man, I cannot thank you enough for that referral. I can't believe that you thought of me. I'm so excited about that. Thank you very, very much. I want you to know I'm going to give them a call. Is there anything in particular that you want me to know about them? Yada, yada, yada. Great. All right, fantastic. I'm going to give them a call right now. You give the person a call. You have your conversation with the referred party. Then what do? I
would imagine you've already said to contact the referred. I don't know. Let's hear it.
I'd go back to the person that sent the referral and give them another call and say, hey, I just talked to Susie. She's fantastic. We hit it off. I really love her. She's great. We're going to help her out. Match made in heaven. Thank you so much for the referral. Who else do you know that's thinking about buying or selling a home? Can you think of anybody else? No? Okay, well, fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to go back to that person, give them the update. So there's 10 very simple steps. I'll give you another one of the 10. I don't remember where it's at in here, but how about a video text message to the person? How about a handwritten personal note to the person that sent the referral? How about sending them cookies or flowers or, something, a Starbucks card, something that's just, even if it's a $5 Starbucks card, what does it say? It says, hey, I cared enough about you.
That mattered to me, right? Yeah, reward the activity, right? Not necessarily the outcome.
Dude, I love it. That's exactly correct. And we talk about that all the time. And people just don't seem to get this, but it's so important. You want to reward the act of sending the referral. It's your job to get the referral closed, not theirs. Right. It's their job to send you the referral. And so you want to just encourage that. And it doesn't matter if the person doesn't do anything. Hey, it's no big deal. So I might say, hey, Justin, thanks for referring Susie to me. Hey, they're not going to do anything right now, but I really appreciate the referral. And I promise you, I'm going to keep in touch with them, whether it takes them a year, 10 years, a day, doesn't matter. I'm going to keep in great contact with them. And when they're ready, I'm going to take great care of them. I promise you. That's literally it. Like nobody does that. Like nobody makes that phone call. But when you receive a phone call like that as a consumer, somebody that's referring people to an agent, man, that just says to me, this guy's got his stuff together. I'm going to keep sending him referrals because I can trust him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, all too often we think, well, if that closes, you bet I'll thank them. And we don't necessarily mean it to be, well, if I get something, then I'll thank you. We just assume that they're excited to hear that we actually got them the end result that they wanted. But what that trains them oftentimes to think to do is to wonder, right? I wonder if he contacted them. I wonder and you may be doing the best job ever of reaching out, contacting these people, following up with them. But if that's not relayed back to the source, then that source may very well dry up for you.
That's exactly right. And it's not because they don't like you. It's because they don't know if you're doing what needs to be done. They don't know if they can trust that you're going to take care of that person or not. All right. So that's one thing. But now the next piece of this, I think that we really gotta consider is we got to diversify our lead flow. We got to get leads coming in from multiple sources. We've got about, as you mentioned, I own a company called Club Wealth. We're a coaching company, and we've got our average agent does about 200 transactions a year. And we've got people that are brand new, and we got people that do 1,000+ transactions a year. But on average, we're about 200 transactions a year per agent. So there's some pretty good producers in there. And one of the things we spend a lot of time on is lead sources. And we've got about 109 lead sources that we refer to our clients. Now, that doesn't mean that every one of our clients uses all 109. That means they pick and choose, and they'll use, if I'm somebody doing, 150+ transactions a year, I've got probably 25, 35 lead sources I'm utilizing. I'm not looking for that lead source that sends me 8 deals a month. I'm looking for that lead source that sends me maybe 8 deals a year. Like, that's great. I'll take that. How many of those can I get? Because if I get 10 of those, that's 80 transactions a year. If I get 20 of those, that's 160 transactions a year. And it's a lot more consistent because it's coming from multiple different sources. So I would really suggest get that dialed in. Can I give them a website to go to? Am I good to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Go to clubwealth.com/leads, LEADS. There's 31 lead sources there that we recommend. I get on there. You can download it for free. It doesn't cost you anything. I would recommend go get that list. We update it every year, and go through those 31 and just pick 5. Just pick 5 out of the 31 and start with that. Like and so when you figure out, okay, here's my top 5, then you're going to say, okay, here's the one that that's really easy for me to implement. I'm going to just put this one in place right now. Get that in, start working with that lead source. And a lot of these are free. A lot of these don't cost money, right? Some of these are just referral-based lead sources where you pay a referral fee at closing if you sell something to them or if you sell their house. But just get each one implemented. And then what you do is you want to automate, delegate, eliminate, right? So you want to get as much of it automated as you can. If you can't automate it, all that process, then start delegating. If you can't delegate, then and there's unnecessary steps, eliminate those unnecessary steps. Now you've got it on a rinse and repeat. Now you go do the next one and the next one and the next one. And before you know it, if you just add one lead source every quarter, think about this. If all you did was add one new lead source per quarter, think about what your business would look like in a year. 2 years, 5 years. It's unbelievable how fast it grows. Now what you do is when those people come in from these different lead sources, now you bring them in, you treat them like gold. Now they become referral sources for you. Right. Whether they buy or sell something right now or not doesn't matter. What matters is you treat everybody with a level of respect that you would expect to be treated with, right? You're going to treat them like world-class clients, even if they're not yet. And all of a sudden you can turn them into raving fans. They start sending you referrals. It's huge.
Let's talk, Michael Beck. I'm super curious. You've got my interest peaked about one of these lead sources, right? Which was the bankruptcy attorney. Mm-hmm. I believe that the market's at an interesting point right now. People have gone to the very edges of their income to get into a home, and all things staying equal, they would have been able to continue to afford that home, and they may very well be. Others are now seeing with the cost of goods and inflation rising, that all of a sudden they may not be able to stay in that home that they went to the very extreme to get. I believe that there will be some people, unfortunately, that will be filing bankruptcy and that will be giving up their homes. Talk to us about what steps you would recommend for somebody who wanted to really expose that opportunity of accessing the referral potential coming from people like a bankruptcy attorney. How did you get into that relationship? What can you teach us?
All right. So back in 2006, I was doing it. It feels a lot like 2006 right now, by the way. But back in 2006, I was doing a lot of what are called short sales. And back then, nobody knew what a short sale was. They were trying to figure out, is it a short payoff transaction? What do we call these things? And so the term short sales kind of took hold. So we started doing a little bit of that. I don't want to say in massive volume, but by 2008, we were doing over 1,000 of those a year. And locally, and then another 1,000 plus a year that we were negotiating for people around the country. So what happened was I didn't start off going after the bankruptcy attorneys. That's not how it started. I started off just going after listings with every listing lead source I could find. And a lot of those are on that list that I told you about. So I started hitting every single listing lead source I could. And I started finding out, like on the phone, people would act like they owned their house free and clear. And then I'd get there and guess what would happen? Oh my gosh, they're a short sale, right? They don't own their house free and clear. They're actually upside down in their house by a wide margin. And so I had to just kind of learn by default, how do I handle this? And how do I deal with these folks? And so then I got a few of those under my belt, got 10, 12, 14, 20, 100 of those under my belt. And I started to realize, hey, wait a minute, there's not a lot of people doing this. So I started teaching other agents how to do it. And then I had an agent that was going through a bankruptcy and I had to deal with his bankruptcy attorney. And it was actually the agent's house I was selling, coincidentally. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to list with me because in a short sale, you can't make a commission on your own short sale anyway. So he's like, screw it, I'm going to use this guy because he does a lot of short sales. And right around the same time, I was on the Dave Ramsey show. And so Dave had me on a show. I got credibility from that. And so I started putting all this together. And I thought, okay, now it's time to go talk to these bankruptcy attorneys. So I hit this bankruptcy attorney he was working with at the same time I went to a whole bunch of others. Not surprisingly, it was the one that I got because I was already in a transaction with a client of his that ended up being one that I ended up doing a ton of business with. And here's the real key. If you're going to cold approach bankruptcy attorneys, and we got other bankruptcy attorneys saying this business as well. This guy just happened to be the biggest in our state. But if you're going to cold approach bankruptcy attorneys, what the worst thing you can do is go up to a bankruptcy attorney and say, hey, Justin, so I do a lot of short sales and foreclosures and bankruptcy type clients. And, would you be willing to send me some business?
Yeah.
I guess the dumbest thing you can do, because what they're going to say, they're going to be like, nah, screw you, man. Like, I got real estate agents hitting me up all the time. Not interested. Now, here's what you do. And here's what I did. So I said, hey, man, we got this client in common, and I got like 10 or 20 others that probably could use your services. Would you be okay if I recommended you to some of them? Well, what do you think he's going to say? Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. If you want to refer those, well, man, I really appreciate that. Hey, let me ask you this. If I could promise you a steady stream of those, if I was going to refer these people to you on an ongoing basis, would you be willing to reciprocate? Would you be willing to maybe send me some of the people that you come in contact with that are going through bankruptcy that have a house they need to liquidate? Well, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. Now that's a whole different conversation because, and it follows the, one of the, you guys, if you're doing referral stuff, you've all heard of the, of Brian. And so, I was talking to Brian one day, and he always talks in terms of give, ask, receive. And it's a great formula, and he's absolutely right about it. The first thing you got to do is you got to give. You got to give them value. Gary Vee says, right, jab, 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 right hook, right? Just, you got to give them tons of value. Then you ask, and because you've earned the right to ask now, and then you'll naturally receive. And that's how I'd approach every bankruptcy attorney out there.
Oh, I love it. The only thing, that I teach in addition to that, it's like textbook. What you just shared right there is kind of with what I teach and what I help people to have success with is that approach. Right now, you had the good benefit of being in a transaction in common, so you had a warm introduction already. But oftentimes they see agents do exactly what you described as kind of worst practices, right? Which is they show up as a solicitor there to give value in the form of, will you send me business? That's not solving a problem that bankruptcy attorney has. You're there to solve your own problem. Let's not kid ourselves, right?
Right.
And anytime we show up with that mentality, we are a solicitor, therefore they're going to treat us like one. So the best way is to get a warm introduction into that person who already has high credibility with that person. And you can get a warm introduction to where when you have your first conversation with them, they already know everything about you. Like they're already pre-sold on you because somebody else did it for you, to whom they have credibility. And so, and there's no doubt in my mind why you had great success with that, because you're exactly right. Those that show up to get under the disguise of, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals, that's not a value proposition they're interested in. It's just not, right? It's not. Now, with your friends and family and past clients, that's wonderful. But to someone who you don't know, who owns and runs a business, that's not helpful, and you'll quickly be treated as a solicitor, as you should be.
Yep. 100%.
Are there other professionals, Michael, that you would recommend? Like all these lead flows you're talking about. And again, I've put in the comments, right, this link to these lead sources. Are there other professionals that you think agents ought to be aware of that could really become a great center of influence, right? Sender of influence is what I like to call it, right? Someone who can send you a lot of business, or in my terms, I call them an upstream partner, someone who's upstream from your transaction.
There's tons. I mean, if we're talking specifically about distress business, right? So we want to look at, if we're looking for distressed sellers, you've got bankruptcy attorneys, you've got probate attorneys, you've got family law attorneys, you've got family law adjudicators or mediators, which is actually where a lot of this happens. So yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities on the default side. Now, if we're talking about other types of business besides just default, I mean, then you got every freaking professional out there. I mean, you could literally go down to the corner, pizza shop down the road, do a little video on Facebook for them and say, hey, I'd like to promote your business. Would you be okay with that? Yeah, sure. I'd be great with that. Awesome. Let me do a little video. I'm going to promote it and I'm going to tag you in it and you can share it and yada, yada, yada. And you do like a little news segment on how great this freaking pizza shop is. And you'd be surprised how many people they share it with. And then all of a sudden, you're sending them a message every now and then saying, hey, check it out. Our post is doing really good. Looks like we've got, 2,000 views. We're at 5,000 views. Hey, how cool is that? And then all of a sudden the pizza shop owner is like, man, I really like this guy. And then you can go back and you can say, hey, by the way, when you guys deliver pizzas out, how about, I buy pizzas for all my people. Would you give them to me a discount if I buy them every time somebody moves in? Yeah, that'd be great. Like that's a whole nother, I don't even start on the pizza guy strategy. That's a whole nother, when it comes to the coupons on the pizza box, and there's like a million ways you can make money with the pizza guy. But my point is, if you really want to do a lot of business by referral with business owners, the first thing you have to do is give those business owners value, and you need to find out what their hot button is. What is it that's important to them? Because it's not necessarily, I can tell you this, they all need business. So anytime you can send them business, that's an easy one, right? That's going to get your foot in the door right there. But besides business, they need promotion. And, like if you can go out and promote them, that's the next best thing to actually sending them business. And so anyway, you want to start looking at these like longer term relationship and get them referring people. But it's literally any business owner you can think of. There's literally no limit to it.
Yeah. I love that with the if you can tie it into your client experience, right? Mm-hmm. And specifically, right, in my mind, I'm thinking like a pizza owner, is he really going to have that many ability to refer? Probably because, because he's influential. But if they're going door to door to people's houses, right, and you train that pizza person, right, this is a new concept for me. I don't know if the pizza man would have the ability to say like, oh, it looks like you guys are getting ready to move. I don't know. That seems like it might be a bit of a stretch to actually arm your pizza delivery guy with scripts. But I love the concept of working with the business owner to maybe put something on the box and say, look, if you're thinking about moving, right, who knows? Like, I think that's a really brilliant idea.
How about this? How about when I talk to that pizza, let's say, Justin, you own the pizza shop. And I say, hey, Justin, let me ask you this. Do you have a way in your system to identify like who referred you to somebody? So if I send you 10 people and they're buying pizza from me, is there a way that your system will say, hey, this was a referral from Michael? Would you know that?
Yeah.
I would assume that most of them would say yes, right?
Yeah.
So if they say yes, you say, hey, fantastic. Then how about we do this? I'm going to buy pizzas for all my people that move into the area so that you get so on their moving day, I'm going to buy pizzas from you. Mm-hmm. And here's what I want you to do. I want you, every time you deliver a pizza to them, I want you to put a special coupon. I'll buy the coupons. I will, so I'll pay for the printing of these coupons, and you just stick those on top of your pizza box, and it just has my branding on it. It says, thanks for being a great client of Michael's. And because you're a great client of Michael's, we're going to offer you 2-for-1 pepperoni pizzas, or whatever it is, whatever your deal of the week is, or whatever. Like, you just make it sure that that's got my name attached to it. Then here's what else I'm going to do. I'm going to run a contest every Super Bowl Sunday. I'm going to run a contest. I'm going to provide free pizza for somebody at their party, and I'm going to involve you in that contest. And all I ask again is, every pizza you deliver to my clients during Super Bowl Sunday, it's got my sticker on it. That's all I ask. And now think about this. When they're having their Super Bowl Sunday party, guess who's over there with them? All their freaking buddies, right? And now what are their buddies seeing? Oh, that's my real estate agent on the pizza box. Dude, you don't need a Super Bowl Sunday commercial. You got it on the freaking pizza box.
I love it, Michael.
At a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
I mean, you start thinking outside the box on some of these things. And now all of a sudden that pizza store owner becomes your friend and advocate, because he knows that every time somebody new moves into the area, you're referring them, and they're going to do business with him, not once or twice, but probably every couple of weeks, they're going to do business with this guy. And every couple of weeks, they're going to get your coupon in front of them. I mean, this kind of stuff moves the needle. But you got to put a system to it. It's got to be systematic. It can't be something you do sporadically. It's got to be something you do it religiously. And the best way to do that is get your admin staff involved in it, right? So if you, and by the way, agents, write this down. If you only get one thing out of today, I hope you get this out of it. If you don't have an assistant, you are one.
Yeah, I love
right? Like, seriously, think about that. And so you got to get an assistant, because a lot of this stuff, it's tedious, it's mundane, and it's not the kind of stuff that you should be spending your time on. You're going to make the initial contact with that business owner. After that, 99% of it's going to be your office that's going to handle, your administrative staff that's going to handle that relationship. You're just going to be the smiling person that shows up when you do a video with them once in a while.
Just the whole concept here, folks, right, is like, who already has a relationship with these people, or who's getting into the homes of these people, right? Michael, I love your concept there of like creating your own Super Bowl commercial at pennies on the dollar. Fantastic.
It works. It really works.
All right. So one of the promises people coming into this show was sphere of influence, right? Again, with transactions like with the market potentially squeezing a little bit tighter right now, fewer transactions happening. How do we be sure that we do not lose any of the transactions that we ought to be getting because we were distracted by something else? What are some of the very best foundational systems that agents need to have in place to be sure that everybody that has used them or does know them, likes them even a little bit, is using them, referring them?
Okay, so those are two different questions. So the first question is, how do we make sure we're getting our fair share? The second question is, how do we make sure we're getting referrals? Those are two very different questions. And here's one of the things you got to watch out for. When the market contracts, when we enter into a recession, which we will again. I mean, we don't know when, we don't know how bad, but it's coming, right? It's cyclical. It's going to happen eventually. But you've got to ask yourself both questions, because the reality is when we come into that recession, nobody calls their buddy up and says, "Hey, Justin, man, hey, my wife and I, we're about to lose our house to foreclosure. Do you have a good real estate agent you'd recommend to us?" Right. Like nobody calls their buddy and says that. That's unrealistic. They're not going to do that. And that's why, I mean, Brian Buffini almost went out of business in 2008 and 2009. Great guy, great system. Nothing bad to say about the guy. But he was entirely dependent on referrals during that period of time. So guess what? Referral-based business all but went away during that period of time. And I say all but went away. It dropped significantly during that time, which means his customer base dropped significantly during that period of time. So he had to make up for that somehow, which he just made up for it by just working that much harder. But for you guys, number one, I would say you've got to diversify your lead flow. It's the first thing you got to do. You got to diversify your lead flow. Now, if the second question is, how do we get more referrals at a time like that? Then the answer has to become consistently in the basics. You have to be very, very consistent in the basics. First and foremost, you got to be doing 4 client events per year. If you're not doing 4 client events per year, you're missing the boat. They don't have to be fancy, but you got to call ahead of each one of them. So 3 weeks before the event, you got to call every single person in your database, invite them to the call, or excuse me, to the client event. And it's not about the client event. I don't care how many people show up to the client event. It's about the contact. It's about the opportunity to have a conversation with them and say, "Hey, look, I just want to see how you're doing." And if every time you call, here's another thing you got to stop doing. Stop every single time you're making a call. The worst thing you can do is every call say, "Oh, by the way, if you were buying or selling a home or had a friend or family member who was dead, have a realtor you had to refer them to." That is the dumbest thing you could possibly do, because all that is self-serving. And every single person that hears that thinks, they didn't call to talk to me. They called because they wanted something from me.
Called to get, not to give.
That's exactly right. And so what you've got to do is you got to call them up and you can say, "How you doing? How's work? How's COVID treating you? How's, like, what's going on?" Like, dig into their lives and, Ford, right? We all know Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, right? So I'm going to ask them about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. I'm going to find out how they're doing. And I'm going to let them do 90% of the talking. And if they're doing 90% of the talking, I win already. It doesn't matter if they come to a client event. It doesn't matter if I should probably invite them, but it doesn't matter if they come or not. And if I do invite them, it should be anecdotal, right? And so at that point, it's like, after they're done talking and after I'm done talking, just before we wrap up the call, it's, "Well, that's awesome, Justin. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Hey, man, next, maybe I'll get to see you at one of our client events one of these days. Love to see you. In fact, our next one's coming up in fact, just a few weeks. If you're more than welcome to come out, love to see you. But in any event, don't ever hesitate to call me. If you ever need anything, even if you just need someone to talk to, man, just give me a shout, man. I'm here. Because here's what I can promise you. People want to be your friend more than they want to be your client. Now, they'll be your client once they're your friend. And there's certainly people that'll be your client even if they're not your friend. But people would rather be your friend than your client. And so it's a much easier road in if you can just give value. So client events are one. Number two, you got to have a newsletter. You got to do a monthly newsletter. Now, I prefer a written newsletter, an actual printed, mailed out physical newsletter. These e-newsletters are not a big fan. They're okay. They're all right, but they're not moving the needle like a printed newsletter will move the needle. Handwritten personal notes. You should be writing 5 of those every single day. You should do that now, because here's the reality. If you want referral-based business 6-12 months from now, it starts now. Like, that business doesn't come 6 to 12 months from now. It comes as a result of what you do today. And it's like getting a train rolling down the tracks. It takes a lot of effort to get that thing up and running. It takes, constant input and, energy input into that system. But if you'll do that over a long period of time, very consistently and with great discipline, guess what happens? You develop so much momentum, you can't stop the freaking thing. Yeah. It just rolls down the tracks, whether you're pushing it or not. So those are some very simple ones. Obviously, you need to be active on social media. I'd be watching too. Like, I want to segment my database. So it's very important that you segment your database into A plus, B, C, and D clients. So you know who you're dealing with. And A being someone who's referred you or done business with you, and A plus being someone who's done multiple transactions or multiple referrals. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to spend my most time, effort, energy, and dollars on my A's and A pluses. And then B is just, I think that they'd probably refer me if I taught them how and reminded them, right? Pretty straightforward. C is all your cold leads. D are the ding dongs, the people you don't want to do business with, the people you'd love to delete from your database, but you can't, because if you delete them, they'll find a way to sneak back into your life and they'll mess with you again. And so now what happens is, when you've got it segmented, I can be on Facebook and I can see that, hey, I've got an A or an A plus client over here that's got a kid going off to college. now they're going to be an empty nester. Why don't I send them an Amazon book on how to cope with being an empty nester? Like just something of that nature, right? Like I send something that's pertinent to them and their situation. They're going to remember that. That's going to mean something. Nobody else is sending them that. And it doesn't cost much. For $20, I can send a book. Like that's meaningful to them. Even if they never read the book, it doesn't even matter if they read the book. It really doesn't even matter if they read the book. All that matters is you took the time it doesn't even matter if it's a good book. It could be a crappy book, but it's pertinent to their situation.
Yeah. You're modeling that you're a good listener. You're modeling how you take care of people, which is exactly what people want when they're choosing a professional and referring a professional, somebody who listens, somebody who takes care of, right? That's the game, right? You're showing them that you heard them and that you responded in a thoughtful way.
That's right. 100%. It's exactly what you want. And when you do that, I'll tell you, there's another thing. They will thank you. Now, how you handle that thank you is mission critical. And this is something most people don't get. Now we need to invoke, and in fact, I don't know anybody that teaches referrals that is teaching this technique. And I want you guys to think about this. There's something called neuro-linguistic programming. Something, and there's the law of reciprocity, and we have to invoke the law of reciprocity. And there's a neuro-linguistic programming technique that we can use to do that. So let's say, Justin, let's say I just sent you a book on becoming an empty nester because your kids just moved out, and you called me up to thank me. Yeah, hey, my pleasure, Justin. Hey, I got to tell you, you know what? The least I can do. I really appreciate it when you bump into people thinking about buying or selling a home. I know that you go out of your way to send those our way. And the least I can do is remember you at a time like this. So thank you for those referrals. I really appreciate that. Now, what did that just do to him? Now he's sitting there thinking, he likes referrals. And I just got this book because I send him referrals. I'm top of mind, top of consciousness for this guy. And he's aware of who I am. What do I want more? What do I want to do more of? Because what do people love? People love positive energy, right? Positive attention. So if I want more positive attention from Michael, what do I got to do? I got to send him more referrals. Cool. Guess what? My reticular activator kicks off now. And I'm thinking about, people that are thinking about buying or selling a home because I want to do right by Michael because he just invoked the law of reciprocity. This stuff it seems all complicated. It's really simple.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. Just take care of people.
It's simple, but not easy to do. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that to do it consistently, most agents will not. And if you want to stand out, oftentimes it's not the big, fast, shiny, sexy thing. It's simply going to the fundamentals and doing them with wild consistency, which will make you wildly different and remarkable. Michael, always so good to talk to you. So much knowledge and wisdom always comes from you. Appreciate the generosity with which you show up to these calls and give. What's a great way for people to really get kind of into your world, learn more about you? You've got an event coming up in October.
Yeah, we do. And that's awesome. If you guys want to come out to the event and all that, that's awesome. Yeah, I just let me give to you. Just let me give to you guys. Let me practice what I preach. Go grab those lead sources. Go to clubwealth.com/leads. Grab that list. Pick 5 of those things and go implement them and let it do some work for you. If you want to, we got a Facebook group. Go to our Facebook group. I'm not that guy that's like, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast. Let me sign you up for coaching. Like that's just not going to happen. Like you guys got to get to know us. You got to get a lot of value out of us long before you're ever going to want to sign up for coaching. So do that.
All right. One last question, Michael. You're a big thinker, one of the biggest we've ever had on the show. I love that about you. What does Michael Hellickson do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to stretch your personal possibilities?
Dude, I am in the middle of one right now. I'm in the middle of buying a property that is millions of dollars out of my comfort zone, and it's scaring me. And it's funny. I was talking to my wife last night and the night before and this morning and then yesterday morning and the last couple of days. And like, this has been the topic of conversation, as you can imagine, for about a week or so. And this one's a big one. This is rolling the dice in a big way. And
personal property, investment property, what's
both complicated.
Okay.
But both at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, but it's millions and millions of dollars. And I looked at her and I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean, really? Like we go broke. I mean, like, how bad is that really? I mean, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? We got to go live with your folks. I mean, like, big freaking deal, right? I mean, like the company's not going to shut down because of it, right? Like we'll still figure it out. We'll find a way to make a living. It's not like our clients are all going to quit coaching with us because we screw the pooch on this thing and we lose millions and millions. Wouldn't be the first time I've lost. The biggest mistake I ever made was $100 million. I mean, beat that, right? Like who loses $100 million by being stupid, right? Well, me apparently. So I guess really what I'm saying is, especially when you're young, and I'm 49, so I'm not young, but I'm still young enough I can recover. I mean, it doesn't take that long. I've made, you can easily make $1 million in a year, let alone longer than that. So I guess my message would be this. If it's not scaring you, are you really trying hard enough? If it's not scaring you, are you doing the things that you should do? If you're only doing things that don't scare you, you're not getting outside your comfort zone. And if you're not getting outside your comfort zone, you're not growing. It's like snowboarding or skiing, right? So I always tell my kids, so we're big into snowboarding in our family. And my kid, when he was 6 years old, Austin, I took him up on this hill. And this is a hill where Warren Miller films. I mean, this is like the place. Like this is, and it was death cookies everywhere, which means big, huge ice chunks everywhere. I mean, it was treacherous conditions, steepest terrain on the mountain. And this is where the professionals do the filming, right? And my wife's freaking out. It's a 45-minute traverse hike to get to this spot. I mean, it's as remote as it gets. If an avalanche happens, nobody's getting to us for a couple hours. We're dead at that point. I mean, this is crazy. And I'm taking my 6-year-old with me, right? My wife. And most kids don't even start to snowboard until 7. And this kid's been snowboarding now for 3 years at this point. And really 2 years very well. And so I take him out there. And he's the youngest person to ever board this hill. I take him out there and I look down this hill. And he's like, Dad, what if I crash? I said, well, then you get up and you go again. He was like, okay, but what do I do, Dad? I said, look, you see how this hill, it goes way down and it's like 4,000 feet down. I mean, this is like insanity. I mean, so I'm like, see how it goes. I mean, I'm making like picture, and it's windy and blizzardy type conditions. Like it's crazy conditions up there. We're on the peak of this rugged mountain, right? Rugged mountains. And this hill goes down and then it kind of curves out and levels out. And I said, look, I know it's big and tall and scary, but at the end of the day, all you got to do is aim for that flat spot down there. Don't think about anything but that flat spot. And you don't need to worry about how fast you're going. Go as fast as you can. When you get that flat spot, you'll slow down automatically. You just go as fast as you can until you get to that flat spot. You'll be just fine. And that's life in general. If you think about this, right? And by the way, he made it down just fine. He made it down. He survived. We're both alive to this day. Everybody lived. It was fine. No avalanches. Nobody died. And so nobody even got hurt. But in life, you look at this and you see all you see is the death cookies. All you see is these big chunks of ice and this steep hill and this danger, right? And what you have to understand is it's like the Japanese kanji for chaos. For opportunities. It's chaos. Oh man, now I just lost it. It's chaos and opportunity. No, danger and opportunity. What are they? Oh my gosh, I totally lost that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is this, that what you have to do is you have to understand that if you can avoid looking at those things, if you can avoid looking at all the dangers that are involved and all the downsides that are involved, and if you just focus on the opportunity, and if you just drive straight for that opportunity, the other stuff will fall by the wayside and you'll figure it out and it'll be fine. And worst case scenario, if it's not fine, you stand up, you dust yourself off, and you go back and you look at that opportunity again, and you get headed toward it again, and you'll be just fine. But I don't know any other way to conquer big obstacles or big opportunities.
It's fascinating, Michael. My daughter is just recently permitted, so she's driving now. Ooh. And very similar principle. I said, the car will follow where your eyes go. So if you don't want to hit the guardrail, don't stare at the guardrail, right? Same thing you're saying. Like oftentimes we go into life in any situation to say, I don't want to hit that. And we start staring at it, and as we start moving towards it. And so awesome principle. Thank you so much again for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and pour into the Think Bigger Real Estate Show audience. I appreciate you. Fortunate to have you in my network and in my world. And thank you for all the things that you shared with us today to help us to be better, help us to think bigger, and to go create the lives that we want. So I appreciate you. And for all those listening here today, my final 3 words are this: go think bigger. Michael, thank you for helping us do that today, my friend.